There is a dangerous lie hiding in your subconscious mind, and it's probably holding you back even if you are very successful. Most people have some kind of limiting belief that's floating around in their unconscious mind because of the experiences that they had when they were kids. So you are influenced by your parents, by teachers, by pastors and priests, by the culture that you grew up in, by the social economic system around you. We're constantly being influenced. We're like sponges. And now the kids of this generation have social media and they're growing up with phones and iPads. And so they're exposed to all kinds of messages that make us feel like we're not good enough, we're not safe, we're not pretty enough, we're not enough. And that belief causes us to feel unsafe. It makes us fear rejection. It makes us chase ambition. It makes us chase success. It makes us chase approval. And when you chase something, it tends to run away. And so we have to draw what we want to us. And that means upgrading some of the limiting beliefs that are in our minds, pulling those mental weeds and replacing them with flowers, with empowering beliefs that you choose as an adult. When you go through upsetting experiences, your brain decides what those experiences mean about you, others, and the world around you. And it does it without your permission, and it does it without you even knowing it most of the time. And so you're being directed by these unconscious beliefs that are calling the shots, and you didn't even have any say-so in whether you want to believe that or not. And so it manifests as stress, burnout, imposter syndrome, anxiety, bad habits, addictions, eating disorders. It manifests in all kinds of ways because we're constantly trying to feel safe. We're constantly trying to feel loved. We're constantly trying to feel like we're enough. And when we don't feel that way, well, you can't just feel awful all the time, so you got to do something. So we develop these coping skills that end up causing more problems. Us humans are in a horrible habit of trying to avoid pain by engaging in activities that cause more of it. So you have the ability, the good news, yay, you have the ability to upgrade those beliefs. You have the ability to become whoever it is that you want to be. So many people struggle with self-doubt. Well, self-doubt is simply a lack of confidence. Well, what is confidence? Confidence is competency. It is an inner knowing or sense of certainty that you're going to be able to do something, or that you are enough, or that if something comes up and you're not sure how to handle it, you are resourceful enough to find a way. That's why I always say it doesn't matter what shows up. What matters is how you show up. It's not the situation, it's what you tell yourself about the situation that determines how you feel. And most of us are misusing our imagination. We're focusing on what we don't want, what we're afraid of, what's happened in the past, and why if it was negative, it's probably going to happen again, why we can't trust others, why we can't let our guards down. And now we're not sleeping, and now we're worried all the time, and now it's causing physical problems, and now we're worried that that's going to get worse. And it just gets us to go in a circle. And if you're a high achiever, you go in the same circle, you just go in it faster, right? So, what do we do about that? What we do is we upgrade our beliefs first. You cannot positive think your way into feeling different. You have to shift the feelings. And those feelings are being driven by your unconscious beliefs. You can go in the backyard and pep talk the weeds in your grass all you want, but they're not going to change until you reach in, you pull the weed out, and you plant a flower instead, right? Or you put some grass there instead. And if you throw a bunch of dirt on top of the weeds, it's just going to make them grow more. So going to drugs or alcohol or food or sugar or pharmaceuticals to change how you feel and change beliefs is a mistake. The side effects are going to make things worse. So what we've got to do is we've got to pull those weeds. And you can do that with a One Belief Away hypnotist very effectively. Now, examples of this. For 30 years, I've watched people who felt like they could not accomplish these goals. And they did. They lost half their body weight. They tripled their income. They had total confidence where before they had no confidence. They were afraid of everything you can imagine, flying, driving, fear of bugs or spiders or frogs or germs. It doesn't really matter what the challenge was. They were addicted to cocaine or heroin or alcohol or sugar or porn. It didn't really matter because it's always the same process. When you do this a long time, and I've been doing this for 30 years now, you start to see the same patterns. It's the same recipe. We don't feel like we're enough. We try to distract ourselves. We don't know how to get to the core of the problem. We talk about it forever, but it never changes anything. And then we just start to feel stuck. We start to get more anxious, or we start to feel depressed, which is just a feeling of helplessness and hopelessness that it's never going to get better. So you can see all kinds of examples, though, of how it has gotten better. When it comes out, it's in fact, right now, I'm in Los Angeles. Tonight, I'm going to the red carpet premiere of Zero Limits. And it's a new movie based on Joe Vitale's best-selling book, Zero Limits. And I'm in it sharing stories of people who I call, achievers that have a zero limits mindset. But they're just regular people like you and me. And one person lost 144 pounds in 9 months, totally lost half her body weight, and she was convinced that she would never be able to lose weight and she'd never be happy in her life, and she was. There was someone else in there who 50x'd his income just by building his belief in himself and treating himself with love instead of being afraid all the time. And there was someone else who beat cancer and ended up achieving miraculous goals. I don't want to tell you about all of it. I want you to watch the movie when it comes to Amazon and Apple in November. So, but here's a story that I always like. One of the guys that is an amazing example of you being able to believe in yourself and accomplish anything, regardless of the card you're dealt in life. Because you're not in control of the hand you're dealt, but you are in control of how you play that hand. So there's a guy named Nick Vujicic. I forget, but if you type in motivational speaker, no arms, no legs, Nick will appear. So Nick was born with no arms and no legs. Has a little flipper thing here for a foot. And you would think that with Nick, he would grow up with zero self-esteem, that he was less of a human, that he would have a horrible life, right? And all the things that you might imagine, but not Nick. Nick decided that I'm a reflection of perfection. God doesn't make junk. He made me the way that I am so that I could inspire the world. And so he started sharing his story of hope and faith and resiliency and pushing forward, especially in a world that rejects him or made fun of him back in the day. And now he's a famous motivational speaker. He hops up on stage. His big move is just sitting upright by himself. I mean, imagine laying on the floor and then getting up with no arms and no legs. And that's his big move. And then afterwards, which I love, so Nick had some beliefs in growing up that he wasn't going to be good enough and no one would ever want to love him or hug him. And so now after his show, he talks at a lot of high schools. He gets on top of a table so that he's like same height as everybody else. And you'll see a lineup of kids, like middle school or high school kids, and it goes all the way out the door. And they're in line to say hi and to give him a hug. And even though he's not hugging him back, he's using his chin. He's getting like 300 hugs. So he has manifested that. And the joy that he feels and the joy that he gives is something that makes you a zero limits kind of person. Now, you have something special inside of you too. You have your experiences, your point of view. You probably have superpowers in some way, even though you're not thinking of it as a superpower. Like I have clients that have OCD or clients that have ADHD, and they grew up with people telling them that they weren't smart enough or they weren't disciplined or that they were a problem. And it's just because people didn't understand how to relate to them and what was going on. But I have clients and friends that have both of those things, and they're the most creative people I know, super successful. Are they going to want to sit in a classroom and sit there and watch a teacher talk and draw on the chalkboard all day long? No, me neither. I had a hard time sitting still as well. In fact, in the 4th grade, I had a teacher, Mr. Lichty. He was about 300 pounds, and he looked like a big ball with legs. And I was in 4th grade, so that means I was 10 years old, and I was skinny with buck teeth. I looked like a rake. and he decided that he was going to teach me a lesson in front of the class. And if I didn't stop talking, because I was nervous and I was hyper and that was how I got friends, was trying to be funny, that he was going to swat me. He was going to take his board and he was going to hit me with it, right? And he gave me a warning, and he even made me sit on the paddle because he thought, well, that should do it. But not for me. I was too nervous, and so I started making jokes about sitting on the paddle because I was nervous. I'm like, hope this thing doesn't give me splinters, and people were laughing, and so I wanted that laughter because it made me feel accepted. But then he went and he took me in another room and he hit me with that board, right? This big guy hit this little kid across the back of the butt and legs with a board, and it hurt. I felt white lightning run up through my body. And of course, I started crying because it hurt like hell. And then I come back in the room and now I'm crying in front of the whole class. So now as another level, it's like getting hit twice because I was full of humiliation. Did that stop me from talking and cracking jokes? No, because my brain needed that to feel like it was surviving. But what he did was he taught me that even if I got the love and approval that I was looking for, I was still going to have pain. So it ended up causing me this belief in my mind that you can't trust authority. Even when you win, you're going to lose. So I went through life playing not to lose, and had this idea that, especially in relationships, that I'm going to hurt you before you hurt me. Now you can imagine having limiting beliefs like that, how I was showing up in life. I was a wave of destruction and hurt, and it wasn't good. And I was always being the class clown at anybody's expense, and caused a lot of problems and guilt and shame in my life. And I had to work really hard to upgrade that.